All right, let's turn to our other big story this morning. There are several threads coming out of the Pentagon this morning. We're waiting on the full release of the Inspector General report on the Defense Secretary's use of that signal chat. We're going to talk about that in just a moment, but we've got some new information about the suspected narco boat strikes. CBS News has learned survivors of a September strike on an alleged drug boat were trying to climb back onto the vessel and retrieve what a source describes as drugs before that follow-up attack. It's this second bombing, this double tap, that has several lawmakers demanding more information, calling it a potential war crime. Now, the admiral, who the Pentagon and the defense secretary says ordered the strikes, will be on Capitol Hill this morning. So we're going to break down what he's expected to say. But let's begin this morning with CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes, who's joining us from the White House. So, Nancy, I gave a little bit of a little flavor of what they say happened on that September 2nd day, but give us some more.
Sure. So there is a source familiar telling CBS News now that those two survivors, as you noted, Vlad, were climbing back onto the boat and attempting to salvage some of the drugs when that second strike was ordered. Sources go on to say that they were in communication with others. There were other boats in the vicinity that could have come to get them. And so during these closed sessions with congressional committees today, Navy Admiral Frank Bradley is expected to say essentially that he believed that these two individuals posed an ongoing threat, and that's why he ordered the second strike. This comes amid accusations from the right and the left that striking this boat again after 9 people reportedly had died and the debris was scattered amounted to a war crime because these individuals, the two survivors, were defenseless. This is a new narrative that is now taking shape, and we'll see after these meetings today on Capitol Hill whether members of Congress are satisfied with it.
Yeah, it's interesting, Nancy, and I just want to sort of put on my common sense hat for a second. It would be hard to tell what people who have just been bombed are doing as they're clinging to wreckage in the middle of the ocean. Right. But the question that I have is, even if that turns out to be accurate and true, is the laws, and I don't know specifically the laws related to what somebody who is unarmed, if that right. turns out to be the case, is then killed in a strike, what the laws surrounding that are, and how the Uniform Code of Military Justice applies, how the Navy and the military think about that type of military offensive. So does the White House address that, even if they're releasing this new information?
You know, they really haven't, and that is part of this ongoing controversy, which is that even before questions arose about this initial September 2nd boat strike, there were big questions on Capitol Hill about whether any of this was even legal, whether it was legal to strike a Venezuelan drug boat and basically make the claim that this is allowed under the rules of armed conflict when these are drug dealers and not a foreign country or some foreign organization that we are at war with. That's why the White House went ahead and designated the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations to kind of bolster that claim. But, this controversy that was already simmering, where you had members of Congress on the right and left openly questioning the legality of these boat strikes, not to mention a number of our foreign allies as well. So, the questions about this newest, these newest details about the strike are only going to add more fuel to the fire.
Yeah, for sure. And tellingly, even with these new details, as you point out, Nancy, the criticism has been bipartisan from both Democrats and Republicans yep. when it comes to not just this strike, but the legality of the strikes overall. Nancy Cordes reporting from the White House for us. Nancy, my friend, appreciate you as always. Thank you.
You got it.
All right, let's turn now to congressional reporter Taurean Small, who's joining me from the Hill. So Taurean, Navy Admiral Frank Bradley will be on the Hill today to answer questions about those boat strikes. What are lawmakers saying in anticipation of those meetings?
Yeah, Vlad, he's here now. He's headed to the SCIF, the secure area of the House and Senate, to talk with lawmakers about what exactly went down. We're told by quite a few members of the Senate Armed Services Committee that this is a fact-finding mission. They're looking to see exactly what were the order of events that happened, a timeline, considering the Trump administration came out with their statement pretty much resolving or absolving from any blame Secretary of War, as they call him, Pete Hegseth, saying that it was squarely at the feet of Admiral Bradley that made this call. This is what a few lawmakers told us yesterday about what they're expecting to happen today.
We're going to essentially ask in detail what happened, who gave what orders, what were the orders. If that is true, that there were deliberate attacks upon individuals in the water, that would certainly constitute a war crime.
At the end of the day, the policy of stopping ships with poison coming in to kill Americans is a good policy. I think it's been a little bit mismanaged in the messaging.
Now, leading up to this meeting with the admiral today, quite a few Democrats said that this could amount to a war crime based on the initial reporting that came out of this. Republicans have, most of them, I should say, have scoffed at that idea, Vlad.
We know, of course, Taurean, that the president of the United States is standing by Pete Hegseth for now. But what about members of the president's own party? I know, for example, Senator Rand Paul has been critical. Has the narrative changed given some of the new information that is coming out?
Yeah, I mean, it's the most vocal ones who tend to be the ones out of favor with the president and his inner circle. Rand Paul, as you mentioned, has had notable spats with the president before on a multitude of issues. He said that he doesn't think that this was handled correctly. We also heard from Senator Thom Tillis, who's up for a pretty hotly contested re-election campaign. He said that, quote, whoever is responsible, quote, needs to get the hell out of Washington. Those are two Republicans, and it's quite instructive that they're speaking out, but it's certainly not in line with the rest of the conference. Senate Leader John Thune said that he's kind of letting the Senate Armed Services Committee handle this. He's also looking just to get information. So there hasn't been too much forceful language out of Republicans outside of those two that we mentioned. But of course, there's again Democrats who are saying that this just underscores a history of missteps by the Secretary of Defense. And I believe it was the words of Senator Blumenthal who said that Hegseth is standing behind Admiral Bradley just enough to push him under the bus.
All right. Of course, we should point out that Senator Richard Blumenthal is a Democrat. Taurean, reporting from Capitol Hill for us. Thank you, my friend.